Welcome to From Our Generation, where we uncover the ideas and events that shape the world we live in today. I'm Crom Carmichael.
And I'm Mike Hassel.
Together we'll explore the past to better understand the present, because history isn't just about what happened, it's about how you think about it. Well, Rush, it is April 10th, and I don't know exactly what episode this is for From Our Generation, but you are sitting in for my friend and co-host Mike Hassel, who is out of town today, and glad to have you sitting in for Mike.
Likewise.
A lot of off mic, we like to talk about what's going on. It's an interesting discussion of what's going on with the war in Iran, and look at that from perhaps a number of different perspectives. And then we did something on the last podcast where we went through just a number of short stories, and I've got a number of those, and I'll bounce those off you. And each one we'll try to put into a context that goes back to the way we're trying to build a foundation for just to help people learn how to think about things and process something, and say if you hear something, a factoid as I call them,
mm-hmm.
and you say that doesn't sound right,
mm-hmm.
and if it doesn't sound right, then before you accept it, you need to go check it, because one thing we have said is people believe what they want to believe to be true, and if that's all you want, then you'll be somebody will be very gullible for their entire life.
That's right.
But they'll be happy because
mm-hmm.
they will only believe what they want to believe to be true. Doesn't mean it is,
mm-hmm.
but that's what they'll believe. They'll live in kind of their
Ignorance is bliss.
their alternate universe. So when we think about Iran, I've got this kind of broken down into a number of different ways of number of topics. But let's start with where we are right now, and that is a few days ago, President Trump announced that there was a ceasefire, and that the ceasefire had been negotiated by more. I think the president of Pakistan, and he had gotten Iran, according to Trump, the president of Pakistan had gotten Iran to agree to certain fundamental principles, or agree to certain things, but especially agreed to open up the strait in exchange for a 14-day ceasefire. And then immediately something kind of went awry on the ceasefire. The question was, did it include Lebanon? Did it not include Lebanon? Did it include Israel? Israel's attacks on Lebanon. Can Lebanon attack Israel? And so right after the ceasefire, Lebanon did attack Israel, and Israel attacked them back in a massive way.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of what is your perspective on where we are right now with the ceasefire, and then we'll get into how is that being played in the media,
mm-hmm.
And then how is that being played by our European allies, and then we'll kind of what do those things kind of mean for maybe kind of going into that a little bit more deeply.
Man, it's hard from my side just because, one, it's very difficult to find anyone you trust in any direction, and we've talked about this a lot in the past, but my generation and Gen Z beneath me, we all operate off of feeds on either social media or a handful of publications that we trust and we go to because those are our go-to publications.
Okay.
And then generally Gen X and everyone above, it's either going to be Fox News, it's going to be CNN, it's going to be MSNBC, it's going to be whatever digital publications they're listening to, or whatever morning show they're listening to on the way to work. And for me, I don't know if I have enough information to have a true, a hard and fast opinion about the ceasefire and the fallout there. But I do know, or what I'm watching happen around me, anecdotally with the friends I have, as well as listening to polls, listening to different folk. It seems like there is a massive, especially with my generation and beneath me, a massive upheaval against Israel as a government. And I'm seeing that in so many different directions. People bring up, what was Charlie Kirk's actual opinions about Iran? What were, this, that, and the other? And I think there's a lot of deserved apprehension when it comes to getting into another, forever war. And everyone is thinking.
Well, now you used a term that's bounced around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
How long is a forever war? What's the minimum length of a forever war?
That's a great question. And I think also with that, I think that really what people mean when they say that, and I probably mean that as well, is that getting into a forever war is a war without a defined ending. So even if it wouldn't matter if it's 3 years, same thing with Iraq and Afghanistan. Did we win that war?
No.
Well, because we didn't have a defined
Well, now let me say this.
Yeah.
We may not have had a defined. I'm not going to defend it. I'm really trying to focus on the definition of a forever war.
Mm-hmm.
I think that 19 years meets the definition. Okay,
100%.
I think you could also argue this back my generation. The Vietnam War.
Yeah.
Was another forever war because there wasn't a particular objective.
Exactly.
And let me just speak about that just for a second from a historical standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
World War I was not necessarily a forever war because it lasted for 4 or 5 years, but it absolutely did not have a conclusion that ended the war.
Mm.
They had a treaty, an armistice, and an agreement among parties that was so heavily one-sided that it laid the seeds for another conflict. And a lot of historians, a lot of people at that time said this is not good. In fact, Woodrow Wilson, who I think was not a good president, I think the end of the First World War almost is what caused his stroke, because he hated the Treaty of Versailles and the penalties that it imposed on Germany, and that wasn't a surrender. That was supposed to be a treaty, not a surrender, and it didn't work out, and so that led to World War II. Now, World War II had a very, very definite conclusion. World War II was Germany surrendered unconditionally, Japan surrendered unconditionally, and Italy surrendered unconditionally. So those three countries, they were considered the Axis. They surrendered unconditionally. The Korean War would be the next war, and the Korean War also ended not in an end of the war.
Yeah.
What we did was, because Korea is a peninsula, and because it is surrounded 3/4 by water, our side, I'm just going to call it that, pushed our opponents above the 38th parallel, and so there's been a peace, as it were, where there's no man's land at the 38th parallel. But the reason that 38th parallel holds is you can't get around it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Vietnam War was fought in a country that has water on one side but has other countries on the other. And so there wasn't any way to push the North Vietnamese above a certain point and then draw a line, because they could just go around it, which they did.
Mm-hmm.
And so that war ended up with where our goal was to fight for a tie.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't, because within months of our leaving South Vietnam, the North Vietnamese took over South Vietnam, so you could very much make the argument that we lost that war. Now, we didn't lose our country domestically, but we lost that war. Then, if you look at the Iraq War and the Afghan War, like you said, there was not really clear objectives other than to try to democratize those countries, which you have to ask yourself: is that an objective that is worth trying to achieve, and is it even achievable?
Possible.
Is it even possible? Mm-hmm. Now, from where I sit, what Trump has said about the Iran war is he has very specific things that the reason he went to war, and he has very specific objectives that he intends to achieve. Now, whether or not he achieves them or not, is an open question.
Mm-hmm.
But whether or not he has objectives is not. So the ceasefire, which I'm going to predict doesn't hold.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to predict that at the end of that period of time, there's going to be more bombing.
Do you think Trump knows that it won't hold?
I think Trump hopes that it will hold, in the sense that I think he hopes that Iran will agree to what he wants. I don't think Iran, the way it is governed, and I'm putting that in quotes, the way it's governed today, I think Iran is I think if somebody in the government that Trump is negotiating with today agrees to everything that Trump wants, I think there are other elements in Iran that will say, I didn't agree to that, and so I'm going to keep fighting, or I'm going to keep committing terror. I'm going to keep doing this, or continue to do that. And so I think that I'm guessing that there will be more. There'll still be more pounding. Now, ultimately, and here's kind of a question for you. Trump made a comment that the Kurds were kind of given weapons to deliver to the Iranian people who hate the Iranian government, and that the Kurds kept the weapons, and so they didn't deliver them. Do you think if the Iranian population, and I'm going to kind of oversimplify here, I'm going to say that the core of the Iranian government is in Tehran.
Yeah.
Tehran is a city of 12 to 15 million people. The country is twice the size of Texas and has 90 million people. Do you think that most of the resistance to the existing government would represent at least 80 to 90% of all the people who live outside of what would be called Greater Tehran?
Well, like I said before, it all comes back down to where you get your information. And from my side, I like boots on the ground information, or at least people who are close to boots on the ground as possible. I don't know if y'all or if you have listened to, I believe I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but John Curacao or Kirikou. I forgot exactly how to say his name. But he was he worked for the CIA for many, many years, and he ultimately ended up serving prison time for blowing the whistle on the CIA torture program.
Okay.
Either way, he's all over social media nowadays. He's doing the rounds on podcasts, talks extensively about all of this stuff.
Okay.
And there's kind of two sides of the coin. Either you're getting information from a certain contingency in the U.S. that says the Iranian population wants to have a regime change. The Iranian population wants to fight against their government. They realize it's tyrannical. They realize all of these things. And then you have Curacao. I'm going to just call him Curacao. You have Curacao saying, hey, look, we've never had substantive intelligence boots on the ground in Iran, but the intelligence we do have supports that the Iranian people do not have any affinity or want to have any involvement of the U.S. in Iran. So he plants his flag right there, and he makes a lot of really solid points. He makes a lot of really solid points on that side. But I think that the main reason, the main thing that makes me kind of wary of all the information that comes out or anything that's being pushed by legacy media is back to the beginning. Where is the information coming from? Because the one big point he makes is that for since the late 80s, Israel has wanted this war to happen since the late 80s. That's very clear. Netanyahu has talked about this ad nauseum at Senate hearings, all of this good stuff, bringing up, hey, look, we need to strike Iran before they have enough, enriched uranium to build a bomb. It could be a dirty bomb. It could happen in 5 weeks or a year. And there's been this urgency, which makes a lot of sense. If Iran has a will and a way, I can see a world where they would like to get rid of Israel. So that makes sense.
Using a nuclear weapon.
That makes sense. Yeah, I could see that happening. Very much could see that happening. And I'm not a proponent, and I don't think very many people want Iran to have a nuclear weapon, right? And so when you see those competing interests, where you have Israel consistently.
Do you think China cares if Iran has a nuclear weapon?
I don't know enough about what China wants, to be honest. I don't think anyone wants.
Well, we know who
religious
doesn't want.
fundamentalists
We know
having a nuclear weapon. I don't think anyone wants that. Except for the fundamentalists who are in Iran. I'm sure they want it.
Okay.
But my thing is, Israel has consistently, according to these CIA sources, has consistently fed false information as to what the Iranian people want with very flimsy sources.
Okay.
Right. And it's because it's, obviously it would make sense. They're incentivized to do that to a large degree. And so when I look at, them, breaking the ceasefire, I don't know exactly all the details, but breaking the ceasefire and bombing Lebanon, there could be a lot of good reasons, but it starts to create kind of this picture. And, maybe no one's getting the correct information, but I know from my perspective, I'm consistently looking for a clear answer from the United States government as to why this is in fully the U.S.'s best interests.
Okay.
Especially when you have so many people in the Senate, Intelligence Committee, pulling people from the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying there is no credible information to say that the Iranian government had a nuclear weapon or had anything. And the thing is, too, again, they can lie, they can do all these things. It's strange to me, and I don't know exactly what the pressure was for Trump to rip up the nuclear agreement that we had with Iran in his first term. I don't know the exact specifics around that, but that was something that seemed like a decent deal.
So are you saying that you don't believe Iran has? Because the reports are that they told our negotiators that they had 1,000 pounds of, I guess it's uranium enriched up to 60%. That's what they told our negotiators, and that it takes a very short period of time to move from 60 to 80, and 80 is at the lower range of a nuclear weapon. So are you saying that you don't believe they said that they have that they might have that?
It's not that I don't believe that they might have that, or that might not be the case. The first question I would have is, what other applications are there for? Because I hear arguments about medical applications, all of these different things. Again, that's not anywhere near my field of expertise, so I don't.
Well, let me ask you this: does it bother you that they killed 30 to 40,000 of their own people?
It does.
Okay. What does that say to you about what they are willing to do to those who oppose the regime? If they can,
it doesn't.
If
bode
they
well.
can,
it doesn't bode well. Obviously.
Okay. So I mean, I mean that's an. Okay. I think almost everybody would agree it doesn't bode well. But are you? Let me change it then. Is it a risk? You said nobody wants them to have a nuclear weapon. Are you willing to risk that what they're telling, that they might be telling the truth in this regard, and that they think that there's nothing we were going to do about it?
Well, then, from my standpoint, if that was the mission, then why didn't it work 5 months ago when the bunker busters happened?
Because there are 2 or 3 other locations.
But then why wouldn't bunker busters work again? I think that's like the main pushback, is that it feels so binary when you communicate with most people about this. It's like, well, either we do a full frontal assault and make this, and put the full weight of the United States government, beyond just flying over at exceptionally high altitude and dropping exceptionally powerful bombs.
To my question though, because I think there are a lot of people who don't care if Iran has a nuclear weapon. I think there are a lot of people who, I'm not saying that they want them to have it, but they don't care. And I think, and I'm now pulling back from history. There were a whole bunch of people in France and in Europe who didn't care about Hitler. Didn't care at all.
They
thought that everything he was saying was bluster. And then when he invaded the first country that he invaded, he told them why, and they accepted his rationalization. And then when he invaded the next one, he gave another rationalization. And he kept giving rationalizations until he decided to attack France and to attack Britain.
Mm-hmm.
And it was only then, it was only when bombs were dropping on London
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That people realized
that people decided Hitler was a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Were they a little late?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if Iran, do we know that Iran sponsors terrorism?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Do we know that they sponsor the Houthis? They sponsor Hamas, and they sponsor Hezbollah, and they also Soleimani worked with the folks in Iraq when we had boots on the ground there to blow up as many Americans as possible. So we know that they did that the government did that. Trump has been saying for 40 years because he was interviewed by Barbara Walters. Way back on 60 Minutes, back when he was just a business guy. And he brought up Iran. And they talked about that. And he talked about how, so it's not, he isn't a Johnny-come-lately to this, to his view.
He's been consistent on
He's been very, very consistent. And so when you say that he was pulled into it by Israel, I'm not going to suggest that Israel didn't also want this. I think that they did because they were the victims of the terrorists that Iran sponsored all around them. Mm-hmm. And but with Trump, I'm trying to get to what we think the end game here, or what do you think Trump's goal is? Because we never got to a definition of an endless war because people like to use terms like an endless war.
Well, my definition was not a defined end state. Like if this happens, then we're done.
Okay, well he is
example.
Okay, but Trump has said if they will agree to not develop a nuclear weapon and turn over all of their nuclear enriched uranium, and if they will agree to not have and to not build long range missiles, he has said, and there may be, and another thing has to do with the Straits of Hormuz.
Yeah,
keeping that open. I think those are kind of, there may be one or two other things, but he's been very specific on what he wants them to agree to, and then he will quit bombing them. So does that fit your definition of goals? And if not, then what would?
It does, but I don't think it's. I think that there's a world. There are many different ways this could all shake out. But one thing that seems very clear to me, based on our lack of success in Iraq and Afghanistan, because of not understanding who we are dealing with, that we have a lot of politicians who are happy to go into another war with an expectation of what could possibly be the end state.
So are you saying then, even if Iran is building a nuclear weapon, while you would not like it to happen, if they did, you're willing to accept that rather than this?
What I'm willing to accept is that we have an exceptional amount of technology and military capability that I believe creates an environment where we do not need to do, as an example, boots on the ground, right? Okay. And I think that we proved that 5 months ago with the bunker busters. I think that there's a way for us to. I mean, I don't know how much you saw about the downed pilot who got picked up. Apparently, the CIA has this specific type of technology where they can, they said they could find a needle in a haystack by doing quantum waves, blah blah blah, all this stuff that's very above my head. But you have this incredible technology. You have Israel being able to blow up pagers on people's hips. Back. A few months ago.
I'm going back to my question. You're kind of
but it creates a environment where you understand what the trade-off is. One is full frontal assault with potentially unrealistic expectations as to what's possible. Because
he's laid out what he wants. What I'm saying is that he's laid out. So let's assume for purposes of this discussion that Trump says you cannot have a nuclear weapon and you must turn over all of your enriched uranium.
Yes.
You cannot have long-range missiles or offensive missiles. You have defensive, but not offensive missiles.
Yeah.
And you have to turn over any that we haven't already destroyed. And you must keep the Straits of Hormuz open and allow anybody to go through them. and the last point was, and you cannot continue to sponsor terrorists in other countries. Those were the 4 things.
Yes.
Now, are those clear to you?
They are clear, but they are unrealistic to me.
Okay, so that's what Trump says. So what I'm trying to get at is, you said earlier your definition of a
Forever war.
forever war is a war that we go into without goals.
Or maybe a better definition then is, I think there's probably 2 definitions, because the goal of Iraq and Afghanistan was to fight terrorism, which is kind of, that's not a clear and specific goal.
Actually, the goal in Iraq was to democratize the country, which I never understood.
Is a great example of a goal I think is completely unreasonable.
But that's not Trump's goal. So I'm trying to use the lessons of history. Trump has 4 things. So does the fact that he has listed the 4 things, is there any of those 4 things that you think we shouldn't want?
No, I think that we should want all of those things.
Okay, so
but what level is it? This is my main point. Is this: you have 2 routes. You can either take the full. You can put boots on the ground, or at least put boots close to the ground.
Don't go to boots on the ground.
Well, no, that's the only thing that matters.
No. I'm trying to stay on the goals. I'm trying to stay on the definition.
But if you set an unrealistic goal and dig your heels in the mud,
no, I ask if all those 4 things were reasonable.
I already accepted that.
Okay,
very much agree.
Then don't say if you dig your heels in the ground and say if you have unreasonable. I ask if they're reasonable, and you said yes.
No, let me correct myself.
Okay.
Then. I don't think they're reasonable. I think it makes sense for us to want them.
Okay.
But I do not think that we are going to avoid
many
Americans
why should Iran
dying
want
for
to
no
keep,
reason.
Why should Iran want to keep any of those 4 things?
Because they believe they're a sovereign nation.
No. It goes beyond that. There are lots of sovereign nations that don't have outbound ballistic missiles and that don't seek nuclear weapons and that don't sponsor terrorists in other countries. There are lots of those. In fact, there's only one that does it. The rest don't. So they are an unusual country in that regard. So what I'm trying to get at is...
It also depends on how you view America. I mean, again, I'm not anti-American. I served in the military for many years. But we are definitionally...
You're changing the subject again.
Well,
I'm trying to stick on... I'm trying to get to the definition of an endless war.
Yeah.
And you said an endless war is a war where you go into it without the clear definition of an end game.
That can be one definition. I think another definition would be if you have such an unrealistic expectation of what you expect to be the end state that you're willing to never back off of that.
But that's why I asked you if those 4 things were reasonable.
I said they were reasonable to want, not reasonable to expect.
Okay, so now let's get to that. So they're not reasonable to expect because you think Iran won't give them up.
Yes,
will
I think that's
Iran
very
give
likely.
up any of them or none of them?
I think that they will be willing to have many, if they're willing to kill 30 to 40,000 of their own people, I forget the exact number there, I think they are willing. The same thing with a good example of this is Putin. Putin's willing to throw 500, 600, 700,000 of his own people at this stalemate of a war in Ukraine, right? I think Iran represents a regime and a persistent regime of people who are willing to die at an absurd level and to kill at an absurd level to keep their version of what sovereignty is.
All right, so this is so you think, and by the way, I don't disagree with you on this. Yeah. You think that Iran will not agree to those 4 things?
I think it's very, very, from my standpoint, I think it's very unlikely that they will without an absurd amount of loss of life.
Okay, or an absurd amount of loss of economic ability to exist.
Yeah.
This is why I said earlier. So we have agreed. Let me see if we can agree to this.
Yeah.
That as far as the endless war piece, we agree that Trump has laid out the things he wants to end the war.
Yes, I very much agree with that. Yeah.
So we agree that this is not then an endless war because he has listed the things that he wants. He hadn't achieved them yet, but he has at least listed them. And so if you don't list them, then for you, your definition is if you don't list...
Well, then there's 2 definitions.
Okay.
Because another definition of an endless war could be to say, like, for example, if it was, we need every single person in Iran...
No, he didn't say that.
I know, but let's just say, I'm saying there are 2 definitions of an endless war.
Okay.
One definition could be, vague goals that can't really be achieved. Like we're fighting against.
No, he's got
terror.
4 things.
Exactly, but I'm saying that could be one. So he's not abiding by that definition of an endless war.
So he is.
But another definition of an endless war could be such unrealistic expectations that the war will go on for such an immense amount of time,
Okay.
where everyone loses.
Okay,
is my point.
Then that
and
has.
if we lose another 4,000 Americans, without any of these politicians sending any of their children to die in this war, then that is an evil outcome.
Okay.
That's my viewpoint. When we have the ability to send bunker busters, and then all of a sudden we have to put boots on the ground. That's the next escalation.
Okay.
Right?
That hadn't happened yet.
It's true, but if you set unrealistic expectations about what you expect from a country
you're the
that's
one
been there
who
for 5,000 years.
But if he doesn't, if Trump within his own administration has said we're not going to put boots on the ground, we'll just blow up everything that they have to sustain themselves, then they didn't put boots on the ground. Is that correct?
So far, yes.
I'm saying if he does that, then he wouldn't have put boots on the ground,
and I would be totally fine with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it feels like it's escalating to that, though. That's my point.
Okay, but it hadn't.
Exactly. And so that's why I'm not making any harsh judgments yet. I'm saying that I do not have faith in the institutional government of the United States.
I'm only trying to because the media keeps they use 2 words over and over again. One is an endless war, which I think we agree that this doesn't fit the definition of an endless war at this point.
But if we woke up 30 years from now and the clear goals that he had stated still hadn't been achieved, I would still consider that to be that's kind of a
let me approach
war.
it another way. This is kind of fun.
It's kind of like 2 definitions. Do you think it's fair to have 2 definitions?
No, not if you're. In other words, if victory is in a basketball game is to score more points, the objective is to score more points than the other. And that is, but there's another definition, and that is to have your team foul the other players less than the other team. Which one matters the most to define who wins the game?
No, the points.
The
points.
Well, no, I said there's another way to define it. That's fouls. So if you're going to have 2 definitions that are conflicting with each other, then you can't have 2 definitions.
One's an addendum to the other, I feel. It's less.
No.
I don't think that's water and oil. I think that if you have clear expectations, I think that there's one definition that you are setting up the conditions for a forever war, and then there's the definition that
but I'm not talking about what I'm not asking you to define the conditions that might happen. I'm saying if you said there are 2 definitions for an endless war.
Yeah.
And I said there actually can only be one.
So if we woke up and it had been 60 years since we still hadn't achieved the clear and stated goals,
then that would be an endless war because of the time period.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's the second definition.
Well, I'm saying I asked you if you wanted to give it a time period to begin with, and you said no. My definition of an endless war is when you go into a war without clear objectives. That's my definition of an endless war.
And now I'm adding, now after chatting about it, I'm like, yeah, no, actually it does make sense because you can have clear goals that are unreasonable.
Okay.
And if you have unreasonable goals and you're working with, like for example,
but
Iraq,
that way, is
Afghanistan.
it because what we want? This is what I'm trying to get at here. It seems like we agree that we don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. We think that's bad.
Yeah.
Okay. That we don't want Iran to have ballistic missiles. That are offensive in nature and that can be sent to blow up places from America or Europe, okay, or interests American bases. And that we don't want Iran to export terrorism.
Yep.
And that we don't want Iran to shut down an international waterway, the Straits of Hormuz, whenever they feel like it.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so we agree. And those are the 4 things that we're saying for the purpose of this podcast. Those are the 4 things that Trump has said he wants. And we agree that all 4 of those things, from our perspective, are things we want. Okay, now, and all I'm saying is if Iran doesn't agree to all those 4 things, I think we'll go back to bombing. I believe that Trump has decided, because, and this is the parts I want to kind of get to. I believe that Trump has decided that because of the technology that it's advanced since the Iraq War, that he can actually degrade Iran to the point where they will eventually capitulate.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to degrade them more than they are now, but he will.
Yeah.
And so, because one of the military people who's still very engaged in providing strategic. He's in the private sector now, providing strategic information to companies and whatnot. He made an interesting comment. He said during the Iraq War, less than 10% of American ordnance was smart. In other words, we dropped it over the target and we hoped we hit it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? And he said now almost 92% of the ordnance that we have can hit a football.
Yeah.
So there's and that is interesting to me. Now and then also looking at the other side, you have Iran, which sends out drones. Now my guess is that within a relatively short period of time, if you shoot down a $30,000 drone with a $1 million missile, that won't last very. That's not a good. That's not good.
That's bad asymmetry.
But if you can shoot down a $30,000 drone with a $10 laser burst, now you have the advantage. And I think we will be there in the next 24 to 36 months.
Yeah.
I think we will be there. But in the meantime, this is on what we think will happen, and then I want to get into change the subject to how the media is handling it, particularly on a couple of words I found interesting. Then I want to talk about the Europeans.
Yeah.
I think that my personal opinion is Iran will not agree to those four things in the form that Trump is willing to accept.
Yeah.
And that the bombing will continue. I think it was in Trump's interest to for this so-called ceasefire to happen for 2 weeks for two reasons. One is it gives us a chance to rearm and plan our strategy again. And the other is it gets all the women and children off the bridges and away from the power plants that Trump would like to bomb, and they can't keep them there forever.
Yeah.
And we'll know if they're not there. And if they're not there, boom, we hit them. And so that's what I think. I'm just giving you what I think will happen.
Yeah.
But I think Trump will stick with those four things that he wants, and all of his strategies will be to get the government of Iran to capitulate and give those four things. Now, I think it's interesting on regime change. Do you think that there has been, and I don't mean by the technical definition, I mean by the practical definition, do you think there's been regime change in Venezuela?
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
But it was Maduro's vice president.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what I'm saying is somebody could say it's not regime change. It's Maduro's vice president. And I don't think Trump cares who is running Venezuela as long as they are doing what Trump wants them to do to help our region, throw out our adversaries, throw them out, and conduct business in a non-thuggish way, which is what Maduro did. Yeah. Now, so I think that you and I can agree that by the practical definition, there's been regime change in Venezuela, even though it was the vice president of Maduro.
Yeah, and the intended consequence is the vice president doesn't do what Maduro did because he doesn't want to end up like Maduro.
She.
Oh, is that a female?
It's a she. Yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I only watched the video of him with the water bottle in the head.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah. So in Iran, if they've killed the top three levels of the regime, and this regime, whoever's in charge now, signs an agreement, has there been regime change already, or is for me the definition of the regime in Iran is if it continues to be a theocracy,
Yeah.
then you really haven't had regime change. However, I'm now going to argue with myself and say, but if that regime agrees that they can no longer export terrorism and they live by that, then I would argue while there may be a theocracy within Iran, there is at least a change in the thinking of the regime. What do you think about that?
I mean, I would agree with that.
Okay.
I mean, I think that every single thing we think about this war is completely tainted by Iraq and Afghanistan.
I agree.
And that includes, as soon as someone says regime change, everyone thinks Iraq. They don't think the technical definition. Yeah. And so once you define terms, you can narrow down exactly
not technical,
what we're talking
practical.
About. Practical, yeah, that's fair.
That's
fair.
better. It's a more
better
useful
term.
word. Technical is different than practical,
No,
which is fascinating.
That is absolutely. I like that. That's a good distinction. I think the ideal end state from a regime change standpoint is if Iran stops doing the things we don't want them to do, that's a regime change. Even if the Ayatollah stayed the same and changed his mind, technically, to bring up practically
he
as well.
He's gone.
Exactly, 100%. Let's just say the next person who's in the seat is going to make different decisions. That might as well be a regime change, even if it was him. It would be a regime change.
Yes, and
a regime is a
concept.
concept.
And if they agree. So let's move off of that because that was very interesting, because you and I have talked about this off mic since the initial. So that was interesting.
Yeah,
the media that opposes the Scarboroughs and the media that opposes Trump.
Yeah,
they claim that even as he conducts the war, it's been incredibly incompetent, and they claim that if it weren't incompetent, then he would have anticipated that they would have fired missiles at our bases. Well, I don't think that there's any evidence that he didn't expect that they would do that.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But if you knock down 97% of the incoming missiles, but 3% do get through, it doesn't mean that you didn't think they would do it. It just means that a small percentage got through. I kind of liken it to if there's two prize fighters, two heavyweights or two prize fighters, they study the other person's fighting techniques, they watch the film, and then they plan how they're going to try to hit the other guy, and they plan how they're going to try to defend against the other guy's hits. But if you watch a prize fight, and it's a good prize fight, both prize fighters hit the other guy.
Yeah, at some point.
At some point, they both hit the other guy.
That's right.
And so if the ringside announcer was go, well, that fighter's incompetent. Did you see how that other guy hit him? Yeah. He should have blocked that. Well, he blocked 9 out of 10. He just didn't block that one.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So I just find the use of the language that the media uses to be, and these are people who are highly paid, so they're not stupid.
Yeah.
So they use this language intentionally.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's particularly helpful. But it is as the old expression, it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and you're not going to change that.
Very
so
astute.
I just kind of
Very
found that
astute.
interesting. The European response, though, has been particularly interesting. Why do you think the Europeans have been so unhelpful? And I mean, when I say unhelpful, they wouldn't even let us use bases that are in their territory to do things. They wouldn't let us fly over their country. They have been unhelpful.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, do you think it has anything to do with the change in demographic in Europe?
You mean the fact that they have a very, very large, relatively large Muslim population?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's.
I think it's the only. I mean, that's the big one.
Yes, but here's the thing: if we're members of NATO, agreeing to come to their defense, if they're attacked, and then when we decide that there's a country that has been killing mostly Americans, if you ask the question, has Iran killed Europeans? during that period of time, since 1979? The answer is yes. They've killed a few, but they haven't killed many.
Yeah.
And so I don't believe that Europe. First of all, I don't think Europe views Iran as a threat to Europe. I think that Europe has within their DNA is to look away from danger.
Yeah.
It is within their DNA for hundreds of years to look away from danger.
Yeah.
And then when it happens, they're surprised. And so I think that the demographics is part of it, but I also think it's in their nature.
Also, I feel like another question is how many Americans would Iran, through proxies and otherwise, have killed without the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan?
Well, that's a good question. It goes back to the killings go back to before then. You had let's see if I want to be sure that we do agree that the Hezbollah and Hamas are sponsored by Iran.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when the barracks and the embassy were blown up in Lebanon, we can lay that at the feet of Iran.
Yeah.
When the embassies in Africa were blown up, we can lay that at the feet of Iran.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we as a country decided, and if Europe as a country decided that Israel is on its own, okay, which is a decision that the parties can make, then the parties would have to acknowledge that what they did at the end of the Second World War is not on them. That what happened to the Jews in the Holocaust, well, I'm just going to wash my hands of it. I'm not going to worry about that anymore. And the fact that Europe and the United States together wanted the Jewish people to have a homeland in Israel, and that we agree, and that we did that. We forced that, but it was Europe and the United States together forced that. So if Europe decided we're just going to now look the other way, and if Iran blows up Israel, so be it. Okay, then why would they be worth defending? And by the way, then if Iran decides they want Saudi Arabia, and Europe's it's not our business. Then they decide they want Kuwait. Then they decide they want the Emirates.
Yeah,
it's not our business. So my point is that why would it be our business if Russia decides they want Germany? Why would that be our business? I don't want to lose one American over Germany, not one.
I mean, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced it. I mean, it does affect us. But at the end of the day, if Russia wants to take over Germany, I mean,
no. If they wanted to take over Germany, and they moved their forces, they told Poland, "We're not going to hurt you. We're just going to go through you because we want Germany."
Yeah.
And the Polish said, "Okay, go ahead, just mount
take over."
And now we're a member of NATO. Are we supposed to do anything? We gave our word. Should we just ignore it, or should we get out of NATO? Wash our hands of it. And see, this is what I'm saying is this is now we're getting into the practical, not the technical, not the theoretical. We're getting into the practical. And so my question is, if Europe is not going to defend itself by getting its defense spending up, where they say they'll get it, but they still haven't. And I'm not even sure they've even started. I think they're a little Iranian in this regard. We'll agree to anything as long as we don't have to do it.
Yeah, exactly right. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point.
So it's going to be very interesting, and because I look at history, and I look at how the European, and I'm talking about now how Europe has existed for thousands, since I guess you can go back to 500.
Yeah.
I mean, that's before that, history gets a little bit. It's not quite as clear.
Yeah, very fuzzy.
But Europe has been from 500 to about 1700. It was at war with itself, just constantly. There were constant wars, and then they got past that stage. And then the First World War.
With the constant wars, why do you think there's a epigenetic disposition towards ignoring danger?
it's been more recent because
cool.
the constant wars were with tools of war that did not immediately create mass destruction.
Yeah.
The First World War was the first war that included automated you could have mass killing.
Yeah.
The others
Yes.
was 1,000 people would battle 1,000 people and 100 people would die, but it wouldn't be 50,000 people being blown up all at once, including including cities and everything else. Mm-hmm. So the First World War was the first war where technology, and I say that the technology since then has changed.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
But still, you had machine guns, you had tanks, you had gas.
Gas was the big one. Yeah.
Gas was a big one, and so you had all these different things that didn't exist before that war, and so then after that war, because that war was supposed to last 2 weeks. Talking about an endless war.
Yeah. 100%.
Talking about that. That was a war that started for no good reason. That was I can't remember, they have a term for it, but it was a war that completely unintended.
Yeah. Well, was it Duke Franz Ferdinand?
Yeah, he was killed. Yeah. He was killed by a
fluke.
By a Serbian. No, he was killed by a Serbian.
It was a fluke that he had the opportunity to shoot him.
Well, that was a fluke. Yeah, that was a fluke, but he did.
Yeah.
But the fact that he didn't do it on behalf of Serbia, he just happened to be Serbian.
Yeah. 100%.
Okay. And so then the Austro-Hungarian, they made demands. This is kind of interesting. They made demands on Serbia, and it was a list of demands. And Serbia said, we'll agree to 8 out of 10, but we can't agree to the other 2 without giving up our country, and we won't do that.
Yeah, which is fair.
And it was because of that that the war actually started. It was the intransigence of one side or the other to accept something over the death of one person that ended up leading to the death of millions of people. And then
what ultimately pulled us as in America into World War I?
Well, World War I, and I'm not going to hold myself out as a great expert here, but I do know this. World War I, we came into it at the tail end, and exactly why we did, I don't really remember. It would have been under Woodrow Wilson, and Woodrow Wilson had run on that he promised that we would not be involved in World War I, but I think he had this grand scheme, and he definitely had a grand scheme, the League of Nations and all this stuff. He had this grand scheme, this world scheme, and I think he felt like if he didn't engage in the world, that he wouldn't have a seat at the table.
Interesting.
So we got in at the very end. We only sent soldiers. We didn't even send weapons. Bernard Baruch was in charge of building up the military industrial complex for the First World War. We were in the war for such a short period of time.
He didn't even get to do it.
That the guns, the equipment that he built sat in cans of oil up until the Second World War, and by then they were useless.
What was the book you recommended that I have on my list? It's in my cart right now, but it was about the, man, I'm trying to remember the name of it. It had a really cool cover, but it was about the buildup. It was either
Freedom's Forge.
That's what it was. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Freedom's Forge is about the buildup of the military-industrial complex for the Second World War, and the story there was Roosevelt went to Bernard Baruch. Once Churchill convinced Roosevelt that Germany would defeat Britain and would then have the British Navy and the German Navy, and that within months he would be attacking the United States from the East Coast. So Churchill convinced Roosevelt, you're going to either fight Germany in Europe, or you're going to fight Germany on the East Coast. But you're going to fight them one place or the other. Mm-hmm. Once he convinced him of that, then Roosevelt, and this was many years before we entered, because Roosevelt then decided we need to prepare, and that was to his great credit. Roosevelt as the president who got us out of the Depression, that is false. He didn't, and we could talk about that another time, but he did not do that.
Yeah.
But he was a very good wartime president. And so what he did was he then called Bernard Baruch, who he knew had built the military for the First World War, and he said, I need you to do it again. And Bernard Baruch, it's in the book, Freedom Forge, he said, well, Mr. President, I'm flattered that you call me and that you think I could do this. He said, number one, I don't have a clue what you need to fight a war today. Yeah. And by the way, the equipment that I built never got to Europe in the first place.
Yeah, yeah.
It's sitting in cans of oil. Yeah. And he said, and I'm too old. And so he asked him who he said, well, who are the three people I should hire? And Bernard Brooks said, well, the first person you should hire is William Knudsen. And the second person you should hire is William Knudsen. And the third person you should hire is William Knudsen. William Knudsen was head of General Motors. Yeah. And understood mass production like no other American
which is the most important function.
Which was and so William Knudsen, the book Freedom's Forge is about that period of time of about 5 years. And it is a fascinating book. I recommend that everybody read it. It's a great read. But the lessons from history matter. And I'm going to be very interested to see how we think about our being part of NATO, because we still pay 60% of the budget. We still have soldiers. Yeah, we pay 60% of the budget. We still have tens of thousands of soldiers in Germany. We have a German base that costs us a great deal of money.
That's right. And
if the countries of Europe, because they now have, depending on which country, it's between 5 and 8% of their population is Muslim, and they are worried that they will, because Great Britain has about 70 million people, they have about 6% of their population is Muslim. Yeah. So that is a little over 4 million. Okay.
Oh, it's only 6%. I thought it was even higher.
6%. Yeah, but if 1% of those 4.2 million decide that they're going to become terrorists because they don't like British support for the war against Iran, if 1% did that, if it was 1/10 of 1%,
that's catastrophic.
It would be catastrophic. And so every one of these countries over there, and that's how to think about it. It's not the percentage of the population. It's the percentage of that percentage.
Yeah, and that's still enough.
And yes, and in the U.S. right now we're at 1.2%, just to try to get to give you a comparison.
Yeah, 100%.
And so if the Muslim population in the U.S. decided that it was going to act out, it can be managed. Yeah. It's 5%. I'm not sure it could be managed. Who knows? I'm just saying. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about, well, we talked about Europeans.
Yep.
And I'm interested. Do you think that a year from now, do you think we'll be in NATO?
That's a great question. I would like to know what our upside is, because I've never heard a clear, articulate explanation of why we're in NATO in the first place. I mean, at this stage. At this stage, what are we actually getting out of it?
Well, at the time, that's a fair point. And NATO was started because at the time, the Soviet Union was considered to be a great threat.
Yeah.
Throughout the Cold War, the Soviet Union was considered to be a great threat. Mm-hmm. And we were allies. In fact, then we took the countries that we were at war with, Germany and Italy, and we included them in NATO. And then when the Soviet Union fell, we then added the countries, the Baltic countries. And so I think there are 32 members. It's going to be interesting to see if I think we'll probably still be a member of NATO, but I'm guessing that we're going to be much more assertive as the country in NATO that right now is willing to defend all the other countries. I think we're going to say, let me make it really clear, unless I see that you are clearly increasing your defense spending, then we're going to pull out.
Yeah.
And you've got 12 months. Quit with your promises and do your job.
And do you think that most of those countries are just waiting for
I'm not
the
sure
next
they will.
President?
I'm not sure.
I think status quo president.
I think they're trying to. I don't think Trump will let it go. Trump's going to be there for almost 3 years.
Yeah.
And if a Republican wins the 28 election, then the attitude the U.S. administration toward NATO won't be different, because it'll be somebody that is part of what is called the MAGA movement.
Yeah.
It just will be, because and we could have another discussion another time. Trump has remade the Republican Party, so anyway, well, let's do this. I don't know how much we've spent an hour on this. Do you want to go through kind of a rapid fire? You want to do a little bit of
rock
that?
and roll.
Okay,
I'm all about it.
Oh, I do want to top one thing, and that is there were a lot of people, the pundits, when all this started, they said this is going to be a replay of the 70s. Because in the 70s, you had this oil shortage, you had all this, you had inflation, you had all these different things, and that all had to do with Iran and the Ayatollah taking over Iran in 1979. That created great consternation, great problems in the U.S. But I just want to kind of read an interesting. This is a column by saying this is not going to be a replay of the 70s, and he said the reason is that we are now energy self-sufficient. We weren't then, but this is kind of, in fact, I'm just going to read from the article. It's really interesting. In fact, energy prices turn into recessions only if bad policies compound their effect. And all of these things happened in the 70s. Price controls, credit controls, windfall profits taxes, export controls, a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, corn ethanol, cardigan sweaters, malaise, and a slow-to-react Federal Reserve fed the misery of the 70s. Now, and the cardigan sweaters was where Jimmy Carter told everybody, and he told them this in January.
Yeah.
He said, I am making the White House thermostat, I'm setting it, I think it was 67. Yeah. It was either 67, it might have been 65, but it was under 70.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm telling everybody to wear a sweater. Now, just to give you an idea how...
I never heard of that.
Yeah, just to let you know how bureaucracy works. In June, the thermostat was still set at whatever the temperature was told to in January. So they were burning energy like crazy.
That's great. Well, how does that even... that's hilarious.
That just gives you...
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
so that last part I found to be... he was still wearing his cardigan in June because it was so cold in the White House. All right,
That's
so
hilarious.
we're going to get to a few things here just to kind of get your... All right. Eric Swalwell.
Mm-hmm.
This will be a little bit longer topic. In fact, we may just only do this one.
That's fine.
Eric Swalwell is a congressman from California, and he is running for governor of the state of California, and he is right now leading in the polls as far as the Democrats are concerned.
Yeah.
Now, here's the setup in California, and this is just so interesting to me. California is the most Democrat controlled state in the country, in terms of the size of power in its legislature, the governor, the unions. That there's more power in California by the Democrat Party than any other complete state. Mm-hmm. And Swalwell is running for governor. There are 8 Democrats who are running for governor, and those 8 Democrats all have pretty good name recognition, except one, and the one who doesn't. Is a multi-billionaire, and so he is gaining. So he is buying name recognition.
Yeah.
His name is Steyer. The rest of them have held. One of them's the former mayor of Los Angeles. I mean, these are all people with names.
Yeah.
And every one of them has support of somewhere between 4% and 8%. Swalwell is at 12%.
Yeah.
Okay. There are 2 Republicans running, and those 2 Republicans running each. When you look at the total poll, including all the Democrats, the Republicans are the 2 leading candidates in the polls. The way that California does their elections is it's called a jungle primary. So there's not a Republican primary and a Democrat primary. There's one primary, and everybody competes, and the top 2 go to the general election.
Yeah.
If 2 Republicans are the top 2, with a total of 36% of the vote, 18 and 18, let's say, 36%, then that means that the Democrats will not have a candidate on the ballot.
That's incredible.
In the general, because they will have divided them.
Yeah.
So the Democrat Party now is trying to force some candidates who are running in the Democrat primary to leave the race, trying to force them. Now, each one of them
It's gonna be hard to do with a billionaire. That's gonna be hard to do with a billionaire.
That's right. But it's going to be interesting whether or not he will agree.
Yeah.
Now, so there's a couple of things going on here that are interesting. One is that there are voters who feel very strongly that the former mayor of Los Angeles should be the next governor.
Yeah.
And so he has like 6% support of the total voters, and which means he has like 10% support within the Democrat Party. And the Democrats are trying to make him drop out, and so they're disenfranchising his supporters by making it so that they don't have a chance to vote for him in the primary. So is that voter suppression? And if it's not, why is it not voter suppression?
That's the question I'm asking myself. I feel like definitionally
and
practically, that is
it is the definition of voter suppression. And so Democrats are scared to death that now. But so that's kind of the setup.
Yeah,
Swalwell is leading, but now it turns out that there apparently are numerous women who are about to come forward. Who are about to come forward and say that when Eric Swalwell was a councilman for Dublin, California, that he harassed them or worse. I don't know what else it is. Okay.
Yeah. When did this break and from where?
This has been within the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And this is in Red State. But I'll read from the article here. It's from Red State. The headline is Eric Swalwell doubles down, claims there's never been allegations of sexual harassment. So, as Red State reported Tuesday, allegations that Swalwell has had inappropriate sexual relations with numerous staffers and interns for years, going back to his time as a Dublin City Council in 2010 to 2013. This has been swirling around social media now for weeks.
Yeah.
Here's what Swalwell's office put out. Quote, in the 13 years, no one in Eric Swalwell's congressional office has ever been asked to sign an NDA, ever. In the 13 years, not a single ethics complaint by any staff in his office or any other office has ever been lodged, ever. Now, what is clever about that? It doesn't talk about the period of time when he was a council member in Dublin, California.
Yeah,
that apparently is where the problem is.
More damning than not saying anything.
So here's what I think is going on. Well, let me get one more story here. Because Eric Swalwell, this is also in Red State, the title, Loose Lips. Eric Swalwell discusses Capitol Hill sex parties, Ivanka Trump's looks during a lobbyist's dinner. So according to this article, Eric Swalwell was at a steakhouse at the Four Seasons in Washington, D.C., and he was at a table with a bunch of, this article says, alleged lobbyists. According to this article, Swalwell drank too much, and said a bunch of things. That was, and the reason all this is in this article is a media person, a social media person who purports to do news on social media, named Nick Sartor. I don't know if you ever heard his name. I have.
Maybe if I saw him.
Yeah, I've heard his name.
Yeah.
And so he's on different places. He was sitting at a table next to Swalwell, and Swalwell didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
According to this article, Nick Sartor used his phone to tape the conversation.
That's incredible.
Okay, now Washington D.C. inside Washington D.C. it is legal to tape somebody else's conversation without their knowledge. Mm-hmm. In some places, it's not.
Yeah,
but
a one-party consent state. A one-party consent state, like
right.
We are here. I think California is not, as an example.
Well, Washington D.C. is one party. Yeah. So here's what Sartor wrote. Exclusive. Rick Swalwell panics when I asked him about his Chinese spy girlfriend Thang Thang. That's old news.
Yep, that was old news.
And whether that's a bigger security threat than Elon Musk. I sat next to a drunk Swalwell at dinner for 90 minutes. He was immediately compromised by a group of lobbyists he'd just met, spilling intimate details about his job and asking for help cheating on his wife.
Wow.
Massive security threat. This guy should have his clearance revoked.
Yeah.
Swalwell spent his dinner bragging, and this is quoting Sartor.
Yeah.
Sartor. Swalwell spent his dinner bragging about orgies on Capitol Hill, telling them he's bored with his wife and only wants to be with tens. So if that is all on tape,
Yeah.
if that is actually all on tape, then I would say
He hasn't released the tape yet?
he has not released the tape. I think
Or
he's
just
making
why?
sure that legally
Oh, I see.
he's making sure. I think he's going, but he can talk about what he heard,
Yeah.
and that apparently he's now.
Interesting.
So that's now in red state. Now, if the Democrats believe that these stories about Swalwell are true, then the Democrat Party is going to want to try to force Swalwell to pull out of the election.
You don't think
even
they'll
though
just try
he's
to
leading.
ride over it? There'll be too much of a wave.
I'm just saying. So
Yeah.
so what I'm saying is that it's interesting because I've kind of followed Swalwell for years because I find him to be a very irritating person.
He is.
And he's also
testimonies are insufferable.
trying to it's a better word.
Yeah.
He's also trying to make sure that the FBI has a file on his relationship with Fang Fang,
Yeah.
the Chinese spy. They have a file on that. He is trying to force the FBI to keep that secret.
Makes sense.
Now, but Swalwell also wanted the FBI to release the Epstein files in the name of transparency. Do you find that to be hypocritical?
Yes. Okay. Absolutely.
So anyway,
Yeah.
I just find that
That's a good
find
point.
that
I
to
like
be
that.
interesting.
What was the direct fallout from Fang Fang? What did they prove that she did?
They didn't really prove anything.
Yeah.
It's just
They just
everybody
proved the
kind of.
connection.
There's no proof
No.
of anything other than their relationship. But he's
Yeah.
never acknowledged. He's been asked, but he's never acknowledged whether or not the relationship was sexual. He's never denied it, but he's never acknowledged it.
Yeah. He's
Okay.
Doing the
And he might have
Bill
denied it,
Clinton
but
thing.
not under oath. Okay.
Interesting.
Now, this is interesting. The Obama Center, the presidential library, is about to open in June.
That beautiful building.
Yes. In order to get discounted tickets, you must produce a photo ID.
Yes.
So low-income people who don't have photo IDs,
Can't get in?
they're not going to be able to get in.
That's right. It's
All right.
not for you.
This one's interesting. In Rhode Island, now this, Irina Sarutska, the lady who was killed in in Charlotte.
Yes.
A owner of an LGBT club bar in Providence and a Democrat.
Yeah.
Allowed a muralist to paint a mural of her on the side of his building. It's actually quite beautiful.
Yeah.
The mural is.
Uh-huh.
The mayor of Providence is demanding that it be removed, not taken down because you can't take down, covered over.
Yeah, totally.
Because he says that mural does not comport with our values in Providence.
I watched that interview.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, but now to update the story, an immigrant who owns a restaurant and has a brick side to his building has said, I'd be happy to have the mural on, it's in the same town,
Yeah.
on my building because as an immigrant,
That's right.
I relate to her.
Yes.
So now does the mayor of Providence, is he now going to be anti-immigrant in order to get the mural? Stay tuned.
Yeah, 100%.
That was interesting.
That's
This
very
one, do you remember Cassidy Hutchinson?
No.
Cassidy Hutchinson is the Trump aide from the first term who testified before Congress that Trump lunged at the driver of the limousine because when the driver refused to go where.
That's right. I do remember this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, she's
got her
now
15 minutes of fame.
Yeah, and so she made a bunch of statements under oath.
Yeah.
That have now been refuted. So the FBI is now looking, and apparently there's now rumors that a grand jury.
Wow.
And there's also a part of this
What
is
kind of
that,
pressure do you think she got to do that? Or do you think that was just her playing her part?
That's a great question because you remember Liz Cheney was she was a council person on that
Jan
panel.
6, yeah.
And apparently Liz Cheney communicated directly with Cassidy Hutchinson before her testimony. And there are people who think that that's illegal. And so if they go after her and she decides to plea bargain,
Is it illegal?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but if you're I mean, let me say this: if it's witness tampering in a court case is illegal for lawyers to do that.
Yeah.
And Liz Cheney was one of the people who was going to be questioning her. So that would be like the position of a lawyer.
Massive conflict.
And so if certainly a conflict of interest to be working on what the testimony is going to be and sharing the questions and planning the answers, that would certainly be unethical at least.
100%.
And so that is going to be, that's kind of in the news. This one is the president of the University of Wisconsin-Madison made some concessions with the Trump administration, because the Trump administration had sued the University of Wisconsin-Madison for making concessions. The president of the university was fired, he says I'm not going to. He said he's not going to do anything about it. But my guess is he'll find another job as an administrator.
Yeah.
This one is fascinating. You're going to love this, and this is shocking. The governor of Wisconsin has the right to use his pen to do line item vetoes. Now, do you know what a line item veto is?
I know what a veto is, but not a line item.
Let's talk about what this is. A bill is passed by the House, is passed by the Senate. It goes to the governor's desk.
Yeah.
A line item veto allows the governor, and presidents do not have this authority. They used to, but they don't. It's back in the 70s. Nixon tried to use a line item veto to curtail government spending.
Yeah.
It went to the Supreme Court and said, if you've signed the bill, if you either sign the bill or you veto the bill, you can't sign part of the bill and veto the other part.
Yeah.
Until that, presidents had regularly used the line item veto, but that's not possible. But in Wisconsin, it is possible. So what this guy did was, he was presented with a bill. I'm going to read this, quoting it. Evers' partial veto in 2023 increased how revenue. You have to listen very carefully.
Yeah.
Revenue K-12 public schools can raise per student raise the revenue per student $325 a year. The bill that was presented to him said that was for the year 2023-2024 and 2024-2025. Okay?
Yeah.
So 1 year.
Yeah.
What he did was he struck the 20 and the hyphen in the second part so that now it goes from 2023-24 to the year 24-25. So instead of being 1 year, it is now 400 years.
Wow. I mean, that's obvious abuse.
Supreme Court said it was allowed. The Supreme Court of Wisconsin said by a 4-3 decision, yeah, it is obvious abuse, but I'm saying the Supreme Court of Wisconsin, which is now controlled by the Democrats.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is hilarious.
Yeah. So I just thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, that's definitely a technicality.
And we're going to be talking about this in future podcasts. Headline: Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche says the DOJ has now over 8,000 fraud cases under investigation.
Yep.
And he goes on to say that is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
This has to do, and there is, if 98% of all this type of fraud is in blue states and 2% is in red states, it is accurate to say that there's fraud in both blue states and red states.
Yeah, on both sides, yeah.
But the vast majority of this fraud is in blue states, and California and New York are the worst.
Yeah.
And so the governor of California this will become a bigger and bigger issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, and this to this kind of point, this is in Colorado. Colorado's free health care program for illegal immigrants, pregnant persons. That's what they call pregnant persons.
Love it.
And children is backed by the Democrat congressional hopefuls. Cost 7 times what the plan was. And this is all in 1 year. So I'm just going to read here.
Yeah.
A California program launched in 2025 to provide taxpayer-funded health care for illegal immigrants, pregnant persons, and children was expected to cost $15 million. It's already $105 million. So when you and this gets into human nature.
Yep.
And it also is in California. There are 800,000 people who are participating in a program which has a good sound to it, and that is that it allows a family member to stay at home and be paid to take care of an indigent parent or other indigent family member.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds very good.
Yeah. Sounds like a great plan. It's done by the honor system. So you go and you sign up and you claim that you are helping your indigent parent.
Yeah.
Now, you may have a full-time job and you may not even have an indigent parent.
Yeah.
But by signing up and them approving you, which they do not check because it's the honor system, it now is costing the state of California $30 billion a year. 800,000 people. It's $37,500 a person, but 55% is funded by the federal government. So this gets into what we talk about here, that these types of fraudulent programs are ways of states coining money because they spend a little bit of their own and they get more from the federal government than they're spending. And all of that money, or almost all, is spent within the borders of the state.
Yeah.
So it's a way of running up the federal deficit to benefit your particular state.
That's right.
And that just can't go on. And one last thing here on fraud, and then we're going to wind up here, but this is a great quote. And this is actually from X. This is from the Deputy Secretary Jim O'Neill of Health and Human Services. I can confirm public speculation that Ambassador Abubakar Dahir Saman, permanent representative of Somalia to the UN and president of the Security Council, is in fact associated with Progressive Healthcare Services, a home healthcare agency in Cincinnati.
Oh, in Cincinnati.
In Cincinnati. Oh, yeah. Cincinnati has, Ohio has a lot of Somali fraud. Ohio does.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's in Cincinnati and Columbus especially.
That is.
But
so
he is the president of the Security Council of the United Nations.
How is he associated?
Well, he's an owner, so he's getting money from it.
That's incredible.
So we're going to wind up there today, Rush. It was I really enjoyed you sitting in for Mike. Great discussion on Iran. I hope the audience liked it. It was kind of back and forth, and what constitutes this, what constitutes that.
Exactly.
But it is complicated and complex, and there are some interesting takeaways I hope the audience found. So we'll end today, and if Mike Haskell is not here next week, you'll be right back in that seat.
That's right. I'm ready.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.